Order. Roll call, please.
President Byrne? Trustee Cook?
Here.
Trustee Oppenheimer? Here. Trustee Takaoka?
Here.
Trustee Brown?
Here.
Trustee Schultz?
Here.
Trustee Markwart?
Here.
Mr. Clerk, at this time, I'd like to nominate Trustee Cook to be President Pro Tem for the remainder of this meeting.
I second it.
Motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Oppenheim? Aye. Trustee Takaoka?
Aye.
Trustee Brown?
Aye.
Trustee Schultz?
Aye.
Trustee Markwart?
Aye.
Trustee Cook?
Aye.
Congratulations. At least it's been reported.
All right, we have a quorum and the meeting's called to order, so could everyone please stand for the pledge? All right, the first item is citizens wishing to address the board. Is there anyone that wishes to address? Okay.
Hello.
Hi.
I'm Stacy Prestos. I have to give my address, or?
Your address, please.
Uh,
Yeah.
359 Pine Lake Circle, Vernon Hills. I just wanted to suggest that the board have a town hall meeting in regards to Hawthorne Mall. I've been getting a lot of feedback from residents of Vernon Hills saying that they would like to give comment and feedback on the proposed plans for the redevelopment of Hawthorne Mall. And so that's just my suggestion. I'm really hoping that the board would consider that.
Okay. Since you brought that up, I talked to the village manager because so far they have not, given us really anything. So did you want to address it?
I do. I know there's been a lot of discussion on social media regarding the mall, especially with the press release they put out last week. But please understand, the press release was issued by Centennial. It wasn't issued by the village. The village didn't have any part in that. And what you saw on there was a preliminary proposal on their part. Probably twofold. Number one is, there's rumors going around that the mall is dead or dying. And I think they wanted to give the indication that, hey, they're willing to invest millions of dollars in the redevelopment of the mall. It's not going away. Number two, to provide some assurance to the retailers that are in the mall that, hey, we're here for the long run. You don't have to look for another place to go. And three, to send a message to the outside world saying, other retailers saying, hey, we're going to be building something new and great here, in synergy with the other development across the street. So don't go away, stand by. They have a whole marketing strategy. They are scheduled to come before the board at the April 3rd board meeting, so that will be the public hearing, and that will be the time for people to come and offer their comments and opinions.
Sure, and I totally understand that, but the residents of Vernon Hills deserve to be able to give feedback and commentary on what they really feel should be at that mall.
That is the purpose of that
Of the
meeting
April
on
3rd
April
meeting.
3rd.
Sure.
Yeah, it'll be on the committee of the whole, so anybody that
Okay.
wants to talk about it can talk about it.
Great.
The idea is they're going to come out and unveil it to you at the same time they're unveiling it to us.
And then will there be a possibility of a town hall after that?
Depends if it's necessary. I mean,
The committee of the whole is equivalent to a town hall because
Well-
anybody that wants to address the issue at committee of the whole can. That's why we do committee of the whole part.
Sure, I mean, I think that the goal of the town hall was to kind of have a back and forth with many residents, not just kind of put them in a small room and talk directly with the board. It was more of having the group from Centennial there and just kind of giving a lot of different feedback that could take hours, not just the time that you have sitting here, which is great, but they were asking for some additional meeting time, face-to-face.
I was going to bring it up under new business, but that was the thing is that if we could, but it's April actually the 3rd that they're going to be coming to us. And the suggestion would be is to have residents to come in. They may voice their opinion at that time. Understand, we can end up doing something too at a later time to even have people come in. Possibly Centennial could come in, maybe not, but again, we can have residents come in and voice their opinion with it.
Yeah, and we'd be happy to do that after we get a chance to see what their ideas are and then get resident feedback after we see what they're looking at doing.
We honestly have no idea. We have some briefs of what it's going to be, but that's
No, and it's very exciting, you know, to have it redeveloped. I think everybody's very excited about that, but they're very concerned with the statements that they made in that article about multifamily housing in particular.
Well,
And
you do know what multifamily means. It just means that there's multiple.
I'm in multifamily.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
pretty,
But
pretty,
I mean, a
pretty
lot
aware of
people
it.
think- No, what I mean is a lot of people see that and they think that means families with lots of kids.
Right.
That could also be, you know, empty nesters
Sure.
generally live in
Sure,
multifamily more than.
and there are other ways to articulate
Right,
that, and it wasn't articulated that way,
That was-
so it was left very wide open
Yeah.
for assumption.
Yeah.
You know, they could have said 55 and older, or they could have said a hotel, or they could have said something else, you know.
Well,
they,
that's the
they
pur-
want to get the most.
That's
bang
what we
for
want
their
to find
buck.
out.
They-
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Also, it's important to point out that they're not going to be here just once to make this presentation.
course.
Over the next year and a half or so, there'll be more than a dozen opportunities for people to come in and comment, because they're going to take the comments that are provided on the 3rd, they'll go back and refine the project a little bit, take into account what they've heard, they'll come back and represent, and that'll happen as many times as is necessary. Also, keep in mind that the corporate representatives from Centennial are based out of Dallas.
Sure.
So it's not like we could schedule a meeting for next Monday night and they're all
And
gonna
have them
fly
come.
out. Yeah,
No, I
exactly.
understand. The other thing I just want to mention with regards to the mall is that I know that Macy's came before the board and presented putting developments in the outlets. And I know that the board approved them starting to do plans on that. It was three or four different outlets, three.
No, nothing was approved.
No, you didn't approve the design or anything like that, but,
Didn't approve anything.
No, we in fact told them we didn't like what they brought.
okay.
Yeah.
Concept approval. So what I,
Which just means, yeah, in theory, if you did it the right way and everything meshed and you met all of our requirements, this
Then you
is
can move
something that
forward.
we might be willing to act
Okay.
In
favorably
fact, I think,
on.
weren't your
But-
exact words, I hate it?
Yeah.
yes, no, I do remember that, but
But everybody that comes in and even gets the concept nod, if you want to use that term,
So that
is
the-
also specifically told it's not a guarantee
Sure.
that it's ultimately going to be
Well,
approved.
my point with this conversation was that I just want to make sure that there is a conversation between them and Centennial and the board, because I think there's going to be a huge disconnect if they build one style of something and then Centennial does something else. It should all be cohesive.
Not just them,
Yeah,
also
all.
JCPenney.
JCPenney, yes.
And everybody else that's a stakeholder over there needs to be involved in the
Sure.
process.
Good.
you-
I'm glad we're all on the same page.
If
Absolutely.
you read the article in the Tribune, you also probably read my quote. So we're looking for a cohesive project, not just a bunch of junk
Sure.
thrown together.
Sure, okay.
Trustee Oppenheim?
And I just wanted to point out, they know that we are keenly aware about the concerns of the community regarding the type of housing that we're looking for. When we had 2-on-2 meetings with them 6 months ago, every single one of us said that we're not anxious to put in lots of residences with a bunch of
Senior
little
living.
kids. We'd be willing to accept senior living, and perhaps if they can make it something that is reasonable, maybe a few others, but it's not like we're looking to put a huge development of a bunch of kids that will impact the schools. And,
Sure.
and they know that that's our biggest concern.
Good.
And to that end, Mark, I asked you the number, and you said it was still holding at 5?
Actually, it's slightly elevated.
Okay.
They are 77% leased at this point with 7 children.
We're
Coming out of
talking
the
about
act.
at
This is-
at Mellody
Mellody
Farms.
Mellody
project.
Oh, okay.
200 and, how many?
243 or 64 units.
264 units. So, you know, multifamily, that is multifamily. But with that being said, the style and type, which probably might be a reasonable proxy for first pass from Centennial, is not going to overwhelm the school. And that is definitely one of our goals, is not to overwhelm the school.
Good.
It may not necessarily be all senior. It may be partially senior. It might be something, a mix thereof. But Atwood had no restrictions on it. And again, because of the style and type of, and the
Can't raise a
cost,
finger
yeah,
at it.
that it is going to be something very
Right, it's going to
similar.
deter families, I understand.
Yeah, and And of the 7, 1 was already a student
That
at the
is
school because they had sold their residence.
Right, they're transient.
And they moved into the Atwood. So,
Okay.
yeah, we have, and of the 7, 1 is high school and only 6 are
Correct.
elementary.
That is correct.
So,
And I never, when I heard, I think I was actually quoted when there was in development that wasn't going to impact, I said it wasn't going to impact the schools with that price point. Seven is not, it is 7, but it's not impacting
Yeah.
greatly like everything else.
Trustee
Okay.
Brown.
I just also want to let everybody know that they can always email the board with their ideas, their concerns. We're very receptive of that. I know that I am, and I usually reply to every person that emails me. All our emails are on the website, on the village website, and our phone numbers are on there too. So that's something that they can do if they cannot come to a village board meeting beforehand. They can always send an email with their ideas, their comments, their concerns.
And that's great. I will tell you, just as a side note, that I've emailed the board several times about other issues and never once got a response. So I'm glad to hear that you would respond. I didn't email you
I've never
directly.
gotten an email
But the
from you.
people that I did email, did not get a response from recently. So, but I appreciate hearing that.
I guarantee you,
Thanks.
I don't respond. But what I do is I pass it directly on to the village manager. And then he crafts the appropriate response because he has day-to-day operational responsibilities. You don't want me speaking off the cuff on some things that demand a specific
You've actually
answer.
responded to me before,
But
over the years.
for the most part, I will actually direct my emails to the village staff.
Okay.
Because that way, people get the right answer, not just my current thinking on
Sure.
that.
Sure.
Can I also point out that we do have a report that we're supposed to be hearing about from the Mellody company that we spent lots of money on, that we do every few years, that looks at to what type of businesses and what should go into a facility like that, and also may look at what's nationwide, to what type of centers are being built, that sort of thing. So we are getting additional professional advice, not just the mall themselves. So we're waiting to hear from that.
Great.
So there's still a lot underway.
And April 3rd, that report will be discussed also. I
There you
believe
go.
that
We're-
it'll
we're
be
t-
prior.
We're tying the two together. We're meeting with Mellody on this Thursday to finalize the document, and then they will be here to present it and discuss it the same night as Centennial. Kind of goes hand in hand. And those should be the only two things on committee of the whole that night.
So
Big meeting.
residents
So-
come.
Everyone should come.
Everyone-
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other citizens wishing to address the board? Okay. Village manager.
Just a quick announcement that the next board meeting will be Wednesday, April 3rd. Due to the elections on Tuesday, April 2nd, the board meeting has been moved to the following day, Wednesday, April 3rd. That's a difference from what we normally do. Just want to make everyone aware of that.
Okay. And that's the meeting we were talking about that will be the Mellody study and Centennial. Finance Director, Treasurer, you said you want to make a comment on?
Yes, I just wanted to draw your attention to item F on the omnibus. It's in regards to ordinance number 2019-35. We are asking during this agenda item to call in the bonds for the Vernon Hills alternate revenue refunding bonds of 2005, which would be maturing on March 30th, 2020 and March 30th, 2021 for $760,000. And by doing this, we would save the village interest cost savings that would exceed $45,000. Just wanted to make sure we draw your attention to that.
And the funds are readily available currently?
Yes. Yes, they are.
Anything else on that? Okay, thank you. Chief.
Thank you, Trustee Cook. And again, I'd just like to draw the board's attention to item H on the omnibus agenda tonight. This is an intergovernmental agreement that establishes a reciprocal reporting relationship with us and District 128 High School District. It's not a new agreement, it's an updated agreement. We've had this type of agreement with the high school district and the elementary school district for a long, long time. But as the laws change, every now and then we have to update that. It's just a good opportunity, I think, to point out the relationship we have with the schools in our community, that this enables us as a police department and the school officials to appropriately share information to help keep the community safe and to support one another in the best interest of what's going on sometimes in students' life. So, and with that, I'd like to also introduce District 128 School Board President Pat Grudy is here, and I think he might just want to make a comment to the board.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks very much. I actually have wanted to do this for a long time, and I'll start out by saying, first of all, I've been involved in the school district, I think now for 14 years. And for the 14 years I've been there, I got to tell you, I've just really appreciated the good relationship we've had with the village. We've had a number of joint projects, and including last year, one of my favorites was when I know Dave Brown and his crew were very helpful to us when we dedicated the World War II Memorial out on the, I think I can still call it the Nike site. But, you know, what a great story, and in fact, a great example of not only, I think, collaboration between us and the school district, but that wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for really the work of one of our members of the community who really drove that, and I think did a great job of preserving some history that many of us didn't know. And so that was kind of fun. But I think more importantly tonight, what I really want to do is say a special word of thanks on behalf of Dr. Prentice-Lee, our superintendent, and all of our fellow board members to the police department and the relationship that we've had for a number of years. I can't say enough about it. I don't know if there is a model program for resource officers, if such a thing really exists, but I'll tell you what, if they need one, we're willing to put ours up there for people to look at. Today, in this day and age, I know I don't need to tell you, but one of the things that keeps me up at night is worrying first and foremost about the security of our schools and the safety of our students. We spend a lot of time talking about our academic achievements and our athletic achievements and all those things, and those are great, but nothing's more important to us than the safety of our kids. And I am very, very grateful for the working relationship we have with our officers, our resource officers. In fact, I was saying to the chief earlier, there's all this debate about should you not have a resource officer in a high school or in a school. I'll tell you what, I can't imagine not doing it. And I see it really almost every day. I know how important the relationship with those officers is, not only to those of us that are involved in the school, but to the kids themselves. And I know how much they appreciate having that officer present and the relationship they have with them. So we have an incredibly professional group, as I know you know. And as a fellow community member, I just want to say thank you for that. And I hope that that relationship goes on really forever and ever because it's so valuable to us. So Chief, thank you to you and your team. And thank you for all of your support and helping us make that happen.
Thank you. Interesting your timing on that because we just had the school resource officer at Hawthorne retire last Friday, and the district, both buildings, especially Hawthorne South, because I know I was there when they did it, is it 10:42 when an officer leaves? Is that, yeah, and they did an all-call for him to come to the office and announce for all the students to go out in the hall, and he walked the whole hallway at Hawthorne South to a huge ovation. So, yeah, the kids do appreciate it. Anything else, Chief? No, sir. Okay. Then the next thing would be, yes.
Do you know what changed in this resolution?
Yeah,
or
there
this
was some
agreement?
there were some legislative changes. I believe the most significant thing in this update is directing the school district and their personnel files, ensuring that some of the information that we can lawfully share with them never gets attached to a student's record. And I think that best encapsulates what was updated in this reciprocal reporting agreement. The law wants us to share information, be effective. They want to make sure that information doesn't get inappropriately attached to, say, a student's academic file. that maybe the police were involved in something. So that was really the update, and those are the changes that have occurred in recent years when it comes to this law.
Thank you.
Okay. Then the next thing would probably be the building commissioner. I understand it's a birthday today? Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Happy birthday. I believe the board would
Thank
all
you.
like to wish you a happy birthday, so
Thank you.
I was told to add that to the agenda. Anybody else on staff have a speaking part?
We could sing here.
Okay, then the next item would be the omnibus vote agenda,
Motion to approve items A through J.
A through J. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion a second. Any comments or questions about any of these items? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Trustee Brown? Trustee Schultz?
Aye.
Trustee Markwart?
Aye.
Trustee Cook?
Aye.
Trustee Oppenheim?
Aye.
Trustee Takaoka?
Aye.
President Byrne?
Motion carries. Unfinished additional business? Anything? No. Trustee Schultz?
No, I was waiting for you to get to new business.
Oh, okay, all right. Then, new business communication, Trustee Schultz.
Again, use my bully pulpit. Again, last week, we had another incident, although it wasn't on American soil, an AK-type rifle utilized in a horrendous action. When the hell are we going to learn as a human race? That's it.
Okay. Anything else? New business communication?
No, I was going to bring up, but it's been brought up again with Centennial for April 3rd. Make sure residents come out.
Okay. I just had one little thing before the meeting tonight. I attended the beginning of the College Lake County Board meeting at the South Lake campus because I'm on the South Lake Advisory Committee there, and there was a very nice presentation to them under the, as our building people can tell you, the LEED project, and the science building there received a platinum designation from LEED, and they are the, I believe, the highest rated building in the state of Illinois in terms of getting on top of that kind of information stuff like that, and are ranked one of the best in the country. So that was a very nice plaque, and I think that South Lake is doing a nice job of, building quite a campus there. So just wanted to congratulate them on that. Nothing else under new business communication? Okay, are we going to be going into executive session?
No, sir, we will not.
Okay. Then I will entertain a motion to adjourn the board meeting and go to committee of the whole.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Markwart?
Aye.
Trustee Cook?
Aye.
Trustee Oppenheim?
Aye.
Trustee Takaoka?
Aye.
Trustee Brown?
Aye.
Trustee Schultz?
Aye.
President Byrne?
Motion carries. Now, last time we did, do we need to, can we carry over the President Pro Tem to committee of the whole like we've always done, or do we need a redo? Technically redo it? Okay.
Okay,
Okay, then you want to call the committee of the whole?
then I would like to call the March 19th, 2019 Vernon Hills Committee of the Whole meeting to order. Roll call vote, please.
President Byrne? Trustee Cook?
So are we,
Or,
Here.
sorry, President Pro Tem Cook? Are
No.
we,
Well, but you have to,
Just say here.
just say it.
Trustee
okay,
Cook?
aye.
Trustee Oppenheim?
Aye.
Trustee
Here.
Takaoka?
Is it?
Here.
We're here, yeah, it's basically here, yeah, okay.
Trustee Brown?
Here.
Trustee Schultz?
Here.
Trustee Markwart?
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum.
Mr. Clerk, at this time, I'd like to nominate Trustee Cook to be President Pro Tem for the remainder of this meeting
And
of
I
the
will-
Committee of the Whole.
And I will second it. Roll call.
President Byrne? Trustee Oppenheim?
Aye.
Trustee Takaoka?
Aye.
Trustee Brown?
Aye.
Trustee Schultz?
Aye.
Trustee Markwart?
Aye.
Trustee Cook?
Aye. Okay. First item is the approval of the committee of the whole Meeting minutes of March 5th, 2019. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion a second. Any comments, questions, corrections, additions? Hearing none. Can we do this with a voice vote, or do we still? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, ayes have it, carries. Moving on, presentation of the 2019-20 budget. First item is the Community Development Department.
Thank you. I'm pleased to submit the Community Development Department's budget for fiscal year 2019-2020 in the amount of $994,239. This represents a decrease of approximately $132,000 or 11.78% from the previous year's budget. The change is primarily due to the funding of the position for Assistant Village Manager. It used to be in previous years 50% would be funded out of the Development Department, the other 50% out of Administration, the Manager's Office. For this year's budget, and John will go, the Assistant Village Manager will go into further detail later on, but that position will be fully funded out of the Village Manager's Office. As you all know, the Community Development Department is broken up into two divisions, the Administration Division and the Building Division. The Administration Division supports the planning and entitlement process, everything from concept review through technical review, planning and zoning, public hearing, and back to the village board. That part of the budget is submitted to you for $284,263. This is a decrease of over $149,000 due primarily to two things. First of all, the Assistant Village Manager's salary, which I just discussed, and also in this year's budget, we have funding for the Mellody study in the amount of $71,000. That obviously doesn't need to be funded in next year's budget, so that results in a decrease in that division's budget. And then finally, for the Building Division, the budgeted amount for fiscal year 2019-20 would be $709,976. This represents approximately a $16,000 increase due primarily to the COLA raises, which were approved by the board as part of this year's budget. One thing of note in the Building Division's budget is you'll notice that contractual services is down 24%. That's because $10,000 that was in that budget from last year has been transferred to salaries for the part-time seasonal building inspectors that the board approved last December. There's no budget increase, it's just simply a transfer from one account to the other. And then just as a side note, we do have two candidates that we're getting ready to interview, and hopefully we can have one or two of them in place in time for this year's construction season. So in summary, the Community Development Department's budget for fiscal year 2019-2020, $994,239 is presented to the board with staff's recommendation to approve, and I can answer any questions that you have.
Well, speaking of inspectors, based on our last few transmittal memos, Mr. Johnson has been earning been earning his salary big time. Brian,
He's been very busy, yes, sir.
Yes.
With regard to our intergovernment agreement with, was it Libertyville, Green Oaks, and Mundelein, we feel that that's been effective, and we've gotten our share, so to speak, out of that arrangement.
We sure have. In fact, last year we got more than our share. As everyone knows, one of our inspectors is still out on workman's comp, and that combined with vacations that were previously scheduled put us in a very tight bind during different parts of the construction season. And both Libertyville and Mundelein both stepped up and did a great job for us, especially in the area of plumbing and electrical inspections. So our relationship with those two communities remains strong. It's been a very successful program. That's our primary backup. And then the seasonal part-time building inspectors is the backup to our backup plan. We think it suits us well. Again, as the board knows, we have two full-time building inspectors to support permit activity that results in approximately $800,000 in revenue and permit fees for the village. So we think it's the appropriate staffing. We don't recommend that we need to increase that staff, but when we're short for reasons such as with one of the inspectors being on workman's comp, we need to have plans in place so that we could survive those times, and it's working well.
And with regard to your availability to fill the needs that may or may not be created by Centennial, we're all comfortable with that, and we're not looking for any staff additions at this time?
Sorry. No, sir, not at this time. Not to mention that anything that would happen probably wouldn't happen until the next construction season as we go through the planning stages. So we'll address that issue probably next budget year if we need to. I don't foresee anything right now.
I was kind of thinking more during the planning and the technical review phase, if in fact that comes to any type of fruition this fall. I know we have the ability to acquire consultant services, but
Correct.
just want to make sure that
I can help with that. And the answer to your question is yes. The first step is the Mellody study. We'll use that as a tool in looking at what uses would be successful on the mall property. And then number two, the ordinance provides through pass-through fee, in other words, the developer would have to pay for it, we can use different consultants. So if the complexity is such that we think we need to reach out to a consultant for planning expertise, we can do that per the ordinance, and then that fee would be borne by the developer or Centennial.
Okay. Anything else on the community development budget?
And you've got the, you also have the three front desk folks on your payroll.
That's correct. That comes out of the, one of the positions comes out of the administration part of the budget.
Right.
The other two come out of the building division part of the budget.
Right. Okay.
Okay, if there are no other comments, I don't entertain a motion to approve this budget.
Again, Scrivener, we don't have a final number on the page 150. Sir, see, it's ma'am and sir. We're working with the number on page 140 as opposed to page 150 due to the same Scrivener errors that were so noted previously at the last meeting.
150 is correct, 994, 239.
Okay. All right, I'm seeing 709, 976 here.
Is that the combination?
Yeah.
With 139? It's broken down in.
Okay. All right. Not shown as part of the overall, I'm sorry.
So that plus the other number.
All right.
Plus that equals that.
Thank you.
So the number
So,
would be
so move
994,
to approve a budget of 994, 239.
Is there a second? Okay, we have a motion, a second. These can be done by roll call? Okay. I mean, do roll call or do you, because they're money, right? Yeah, okay. All right. Roll call, please.
Aye.
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 Trustee Takaoka.
Aye. Motion carries. Committees budget.
Thank you. The committee's budget is presented to the board tonight in the amount of $36,408. This represents a $350 decrease from last year's budget. As the board is aware, this board budget funds the Planning and Zoning Commission, the Zoning Board of Appeals, previously the Traffic Advisory Board, the Senior Citizens Committee, and the Blood Drive Committee. The Traffic Advisory Board hasn't met in years, so we're recommending not funding money for them. If for some reason we had to, we could certainly find the funds elsewhere in the budget. So for tonight, staff is recommending approval for the fiscal year 2019-2020 committee's budget in the amount of $36,408.
Okay. Here, page 154 says 36058.
It is 058.
Okay, so that the transmittal letter on page 151 is in error.
Duly noted.
Yeah. Oh, Yeah, they put the 1819 and the 1920s,
Yep.
the same number.
The traffic advisory budget for FY 1920 is zero.
Right. It shows.
Yeah,
So the number is $36,058.
yeah, I misspoke. The paragraph at the beginning says 36,408. It doesn't reflect the $350 decrease that was determined to be taken out later on. If you look in the chart below, then you'll see the correct number of 36,058. That's the correct number, and that's what we're requesting approval of tonight.
Okay. So moved.
So, yeah.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second. Roll call, please.
Aye.
Trustee Markwart?
Aye.
Trustee Cook?
Aye.
Trustee Oppenheim?
Aye.
Trustee Takaoka?
Aye.
Trustee Brown?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item is the events budget. Village Manager Petrillo.
Hello and good evening. I am pleased to submit the community events proposed budget for your review. As you are aware, this budget captures the cost associated with coordinating the Arbor Theater Concert Series, the Vernon Hills Fishing Derby, also known as the Jim and Helen Hare Fishing Derby, named after former trustee Jim Hire and his wife, who dedicated so much of themselves to this community. This event, as you know, is intended to give veterans residing at the VA hospital an amazing field trip experience in Vernon Hills. This budget also covers the pageant, summer celebration fireworks, July 4th parade and July 4th fireworks, and Oktoberfest. As the board is aware, the events coordinated by this village are all special and help define the character of Vernon Hills. There is an anticipated increase of approximately $1,100 for fireworks, but the overall budget has been decreased by 0.38%. For a total budget of $106,140, or $400 less than last fiscal year. I'm available to answer any questions.
Questions or comments from the board?
My only comment is the fishing derby is outstanding. The boys really enjoy it. I see them once a month up at Lovell. A lot of same folks attend both events, the ones I'm up there for, and that fishing derby, and it's well done, and the police department should be lauded innumerable times for the work and the gathering of resources that they get. And they even cook the hamburgers through, so there's no chance of getting a raw or bloody hamburger. I appreciate that.
Well, as a veteran, sir, I'm sure you appreciate the hoo-ah experience that they have coming here, and it's a great community event. Public Works participates in helping the village. For years, Larry has funded it to make sure that there are fish that are actually caught, and
Yes.
we appreciate the board putting the fish in the lake each year, because that makes it special when they do catch something, and obviously the police department and everybody else that comes out and supports them, and again, I appreciate you going up there and volunteering your time up there. The veterans love getting out of the home and coming to Vernon Hills and being part of this event.
Absolutely.
It's very special.
Motion to approve the budget of 106,140.
I'll second it.
Motion is second. Comments or questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
President Byrne? Trustee Markwart?
Aye.
Trustee Cook?
Aye.
Trustee Oppenheim?
Aye.
Trustee Takaoka? Trustee Brown?
Aye.
Trustee Schultz?
Motion carries. Next item is the summer celebration budget.
Thank you, sir. I am pleased to submit the proposed Summer Celebration 2019 budget for your review. As you are aware, this budget captures the cost associated with coordinating Summer Celebration at Century Park, which will be from Thursday, July 18th through Sunday, July 21st, 2019. Summer Celebration is an annual event that both residents, as well as many others from throughout our regional community, look forward to attending each year. Estimated donations and sales are anticipated to be $154,550. Expenses include costs for tents and disposal, electricity, entertainment, children's acts, and ground operations, which include costs for trailers, portable toilets, and miscellaneous supplies. Also in this budget are the cost for promotion and advertising. Within this proposed budget, savings should be realized with $6,800 less being spent on grounds cost, $6,000 less on trailer cost, $5,500 less on commodities, for a total savings of $19,325. The proposed budget for Summer Celebration 2019 is $167,060, which is 10.37% less than last year. I am available to answer any questions.
Sorry.
Trustee Oppenheim.
I was curious, how are we able to make these savings?
So, Dave, do you want to take that? It has to do with a combination of less cost being spent on trailers, I guess getting better bids, and less in commodities, and just from looking at last year's cost, realizing that savings can be made in this year's budget.
Great.
The other thing I can tell you,
Well, does the reconfiguration of the park have anything to do with it?
That's my question.
reconfiguration of the park does have something to do, if you recall, with putting in permanent bathrooms there, which eliminates the cost of some of the portalettes, as it will. The other thing too is the entertainment budget has been reduced by $10,000 this year. That's a significant chunk. And that's based on the contracts that we are negotiating today as we speak, that will be signed. They'll be coming before the board within the next board meeting or two. But we know what those dollar amounts are, so we can budget appropriately instead of over budgeting and
Well, the line
or
item on
overspending.
168 shows that down 5,000, is that, or is it more like 10?
It's 10,000.
Okay.
With regard, though, to the reconfiguration of the park, are they going to have the turf surface down in sufficient time for it to be stabilized and good to go?
I can help with that. Their contractor is behind schedule. We're working with the Park
hey.
District. Absolutely. We're having a meeting actually on Friday to talk about the project a little bit more. Once the weather breaks, they don't have a lot of work to do, so I can see that they will catch up. So there will be turf down. To what degree it matures and is full and vibrant, that's going to be the question. I can't really answer that.
And the other, I guess, I direct it to either John or Mark. My next dentist appointment, I believe, is May 6th, and the dentist lives in town here, and that's the only question he ever asked me, is who the entertainment is. What's the date that we're going to be able to announce the entertainment?
It's entirely dependent upon when the contracts are signed, 100% of the time.
Yeah.
That's all it is. While we're sitting here, I got another email from someone asking if we can, when we're going to release the entertainment.
Is it my dentist?
No, it
My
wasn't.
DDS?
No, it was someone else. But as soon as the contracts are signed, they'll come before the board, and then we can announce.
Okay. Should we be expectant?
It's in their hands. Yeah, on the edge of your seats. They've been reviewed by council, they've been resubmitted, and sometimes it's a lengthy process going back and forth. On the ones that we're doing this year, I don't expect it to be the case. I expect us to have it wrapped up relatively quickly.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so the number we are looking at is motion to approve $167,060.
Yes, sir.
Okay, is that the motion?
That is the motion, sir.
Motion is second. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
President Byrne? Trustee Cook?
Aye.
Trustee Oppenheim?
Aye.
Trustee Takaoka?
Aye.
Trustee Brown?
Aye.
Trustee Schultz?
Aye.
Trustee Markwart?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item, Judiciary Budget.
Thank you, sir. I am pleased to submit the proposed fiscal year 2019/20 Judiciary Budget for your review. As you are aware, this budget captures the anticipated legal expenses for administration, adjudication, which will include a hearing judge, a governmental affairs attorney, it's our lobbyist for monitoring downstate legislation, a labor attorney for labor and contractual matters, a village attorney for providing municipal legal counsel for day-to-day village operations, as well as development, redevelopment, and land use agreements, and a village prosecutor for representing the village in court with enforcement actions taken by police in the performance of their duties. The proposed fiscal year 1920 budget is $524,000, which is 16.7% higher than last fiscal year. The proposed budget for this coming fiscal year reflects the legal expenses from the previous fiscal year, which included cost for specialty attorneys, which included labor employment issues, continued implementation of the new administration, adjudication system, which has required a revision of policy and codes for all types of civil, criminal, and traffic enforcement, anticipated commercial and residential development opportunities, and costs with day-to-day matters requiring legal review and consultation. Again, the proposed budget for judiciary is $524,000 to cover the anticipated costs for this coming fiscal year. I'm available to answer any questions.
Are there questions on this one from the board?
I noticed that we didn't have any original budget, 18-19 numbers.
Actually, that is the original budget. We have not done the revised, any budget amendments yet.
No, well, by line item.
The 449?
No, the individual.
Page
line items.
172.
Yeah.
Yeah, the 18-19 original budget is 449,000.
Yeah, but there's
Broken down.
There's 6 line items.
So
This report has never been written to have the detail as it appeared in the previous year. I do have the budget for last year, if you want me to read those.
Yeah, we want to hear them.
Okay. Yeah, whoops. Okay. Let's see, for administrative adjudication, 20,000. Government affairs attorney, 54,000. Let's see, oh, I should have my ruler. Labor attorney, 100,000. Specialty attorney and associates, 50,000. Village attorney, 150,000, and village prosecutor, 75,000. And that totaled 449,000.
Thank you. So the proposed budget on village attorney doubles from
300?
150 to 300.
I'm sorry?
It's double.
Last year's budget.
Well, and last year, of course, we had specialty attorney and village attorney. Those have been combined into one. So, I mean, basically, you're talking about an increase from 200,000 to 300,000.
Any other comments, questions, anything from board members?
Okay, so let me understand, I need to understand this. So last year, we spent 150,000 for the village attorney. This year, you're proposing 300 because we're merging specialty attorney services that were 50,000 into that village attorney number?
First
I
of all,
don't know.
let me clarify. This isn't spent, but this is what we had budgeted last year. Last year, we had 2 different attorneys performing those 2 different functions, so we delineated them separately.
I understand.
And this year, since the same attorney is performing both functions, it's been combined. We're not delineating them separately. So that's why, from that point of view, the
Right, but aren't we we're still in discussions about this
right.
position, so to me, I don't see how we can, I'm not approving a budget in which I have no absolute, we haven't made a decision yet, have we? So then you can't make, the thing is, you don't make a budget off, I can't make a budget based upon something that's not in, absolute. You see what I mean? I mean, you're merging Attorney Hunt's fees from last year, or specialty attorney's fees and the village attorney, but yet we're still in the process. We're still in a process right now, is what I'm saying.
And I'll just state as, I guess, from my accountant, finance, budget point of view, which is different than your point of view.
Right.
Is, one of our main concerns is that under the budgetary system, we need to have a budget passed by April 30th. I know you have to come to a decision on that question, and you realize the budget can be adjusted up and down after April 30th. So I'm not making a.
Oh, no, I
a
understand. So
recommendation
I
either.
guess my suggestion is we table this. Do I have a?
We can't really,
Or
can't
not
really
ta-
table it,
or
but
can
why, I mean, would it mess everything up if we just put it back to the current level and then if we needed to adjust up, do that after the fact?
But my proposal would be, if you wanted to reduce this, is that you, when you get to general purpose, increase contingency by the same amount. Contingency can be used for anything. It needs board approval to be used. And maybe maybe you decide not to use it at all. That's all at the board's option. But that way we could, I'm just looking at our calendar and thinking, but that we.
So you're
Right.
saying reduce this from 300 to 200 and put the other 100 into the contingency?
I'm not.
Well,
I'm
No, I mean,
not
that's
making
a,
any
that's a possibility, is what you're,
Yeah.
okay.
So in lieu of 524,000, it would be 424,000? Am I stating that correctly, Scrivener's Finance Director?
And then, so 440,
And then we would add it, when I get to the general
when we get to
purpose,
the general, we'll add 100,000
onto the
under the
contingency,
contingency,
just to,
keep the numbers right for the rest of the budget.
right. And like Larry said, I mean, we don't have to, transfer it over, but it's there, so all these reports are kind of sustained dollar amount-wise.
Okay.
Motion to approve the judiciary budget to the number of 424,000.
Second.
A motion, a second. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
President Byrne? Trustee Oppenheim?
Aye.
Trustee Takaoka?
Aye.
Trustee Brown?
Aye.
Trustee Schultz?
Aye.
Trustee Markwart?
Aye.
Trustee Cook?
Aye. Motion carries. Do we, Larry, need a motion then to, where would we
Contingency.
take with the, do we need a motion, at what point would we do
So,
for moving
so
the 100,000?
The general purpose budget is still ahead,
Okay,
so at that.
so there's where we do it, okay, all right, thank you. Okay, then the next item is the President and Village Board budget.
Thank you. I am pleased to submit the fiscal year 2019-20 President and Village Board proposed budget for your review. As you are aware, this budget captures the cost associated with part-time salaries, training, conferences, and services for administration of board activities. In addition, this budget includes grants for local schools, PADS, Serenity House, Youth and Family Counseling, Fresh Start, Girl Scouts, the Lake County Center for Independent Living, senior grants, and the University of Illinois Lake County Extension, and potentially others. At the conclusion of my update on this presentation, our village manager is also going to make comment on the importance of these grants. As you will note, this budget is 80.63% less than last fiscal year. The fiscal year 1920 budget is proposed at $120,742. Last fiscal year, an amount of $500,000 reflected a placeholder to be used towards a possible contribution and loans to District 73 for the proposed kindergarten center expansion. Again, the proposed fiscal year 1920 budget for the President and Village Board is $120,742. Sir, you want to take it?
Thank you, John. I just want to speak to you a minute on the social service grants. Every year, the village contributes a certain amount of money to various deserving nonprofit organizations throughout the community. This current fiscal year, there are 11 of these entities that were approved for an amount totaling $34,500. This year, when we sent out our request for proposals for people to submit the request for grants, there were 11 again submitted for $43,500. Trustee Brown and I got together and reviewed the applications, and reviewed the grants, and we are again requesting that the village essentially fund the same amounts as last year to the various entities for the same total of $34,500. To award any more money to any of the other individual entities that applied would mean we'd have to take money away from some other deserving source. You have a spreadsheet in front of you with the yellow column highlighted as far as what we had discussed and we were recommending for the board's consideration and approval. If you'd like, I can read out the specific dollar amounts for the different entities if you'd like. You'd like, okay. So for a safe place, Lake County Crisis Center, it would be $5,500. For the Community Alliance Project, it would be $2,500. For the Serenity House, it would be $2,500. For Youth and Family Counseling, it would be $5,000. For PADS Emergency Shelter and Supportive Services, it would be $5,000. For the University of Illinois Lake County Extension Program, it would be $1,000. For the Girl Scouts of Greater Chicago in Indiana, it would be $1,000. For Fresh Start of Illinois, it would be $1,000. For the Lake County Center for Independent Living, it would be $2,000. And for the Court-Appointed Special Advocates for Children, CASA, it would be $7,500. And for senior issues, et cetera, it is $1,500. Again, total of $34,500. This is the same amount that was budgeted during the current fiscal year, and that would be our recommendation for the board's consideration and approval.
Quick question I have. I find no problem. Again, Serenity House is a favorite of mine, as is the Safe Place. The Fresh Start of Illinois, I know every year we have a discussion on that item, but have we ever gotten a report from them into the actions that they've been able to, the number of people that they've helped, et cetera?
To the best of my knowledge, no. But to be perfectly honest, that's pretty much true of all the organizations. I mean, we could request that.
I'd like us to request that. I'm not going to change or make any suggestions counter to what's shown here. But that one keeps showing up, and I really don't understand. I understand where we got started with it back in after the recession of 2007, 2008, and there was a lot of folks, the unemployment spike. But, you know, employment, while one can make an argument that the majority of folks in this country may or may not be underemployed, but underemployment is a fact of life in today's society. But the employment, the overall employment is at such a low number. I'm really wondering what we're getting for this. And we kind of skim over that. We have the same discussion every year, and we never really get an answer on that particular one. The other ones I'm very aware of. In fact, even the University of Illinois, I mean, because we have the ability to have them located up here in Grays Lake or somewhere up the road, up 45, they're available to gardeners and homeowners here. They charge a fee for a lot of their services, but by our contribution, it allows them to maintain an office here. So I even understand that one, but this one I've always having a problem with.
Well, you know, if you'd like, what we can do is, if we approve the budget as stands before any checks are issued, we can get a copy of their annual report.
I like that idea, sir.
Okay.
Good idea. Any other comments or questions on?
So going forward in the future, should we ask that as part of the request process? If we've given them money in the past, ask for an annual report?
We certainly can.
As part of the
You know, what's
new
happened is, over the years, anecdotally, everyone is familiar. For example, take PADS. Everyone knows what PADS does. I don't think anyone knows the exact number. They probably do. But everyone knows what PADS does and how they operate, and everyone takes it at face value that that's,
Right.
it's a
And
good
we get-
organization.
And we get community feedback on PADS because we all know people that volunteer up here at St. Mary of Vernon, and they provide us ongoing feedback, yeah, we had X number of folks that were here, and we fed them and gave them shelter during cold winter nights, et cetera, so.
And speaking from the police department's perspective, I know there's many times during those nights when we've given people rides over to pads, referred people to pads.
Right.
So we know the one-on-one value of it.
In the comments on the right here, it does talk about at least 2017 numbers for a lot of these organizations, how many Vernon Hills residents they serve.
With regard to, just as a statement, the 500,000 that was budgeted last year that is no longer being budgeted, that 500,000, and correct me anybody if I'm erring in any way, but that 500,000 was a placeholder for District 73 when they're going to build the kindergarten building out of their savings. Subsequently, when they hired the new accountant or financial director, they made a determination that that was not feasible. They went out to referendum. They now have $48.3 or $48.7 million available to them to bond, and therefore there really is no longer a need to get them over a hump to where they just barely had enough dollars to build the kindergarten addition to the Sullivan Center. Therefore, we're not continuing that 500,000, and I am fine with that. And as so stated here, at 500,000, there was only 200,000 was a direct contribution, and the other 300,000 was a loan. Right. So that's what that's all about, and if anybody's got a problem with it, you can email me, and then you'll get the same, but maybe a better crafted answer from Mark Fleischhauer.
Other comments or questions on the,
Motion to approve 12742 for the Board of Trustees budget summary, President and Board of Trustees budget summary.
120,700.
I'll second.
Did I say something
Well, you
wrong?
said 12742,
It's
which is not
Yes, sir.
clear.
Yes, sir.
34.5.
no,
I
120,
mean,
120,742.
42. Is that what the last page says? Yes.
It's 127.42. This was part
They match.
120,000,
700.
742.
$42. So moved.
Second.
Motion second. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
President Byrne? Trustee Takaoka?
Aye.
Trustee Brown?
Aye.
Trustee Schultz?
Aye.
Trustee Markwart? Trustee Cook?
Aye.
Trustee Oppenheim?
Aye.
Motion carries.
And thank you, Trustee Brown, for living up to Trustee Hebda's prior work on putting this together.
Okay, next item is the administration budget summary.
Thank you, sir. I am pleased to submit the fiscal year. Social service grants were actually listed as a separate item, item L on the agenda.
I thought they were, but that was to discuss them, and we discussed them. They're listed in the budget.
You're correct. So they happen to show up in here. They are listed under the president's and village board's budget.
But they are part of the 120,000, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah, this one is my mistake.
gotcha.
Because I asked to have it put as a special item to discuss separately. So we just melded it in where it belongs.
Okay.
Now, is John still pleased to present?
I am, sir. Thank you, sir. I am pleased to submit the fiscal year 2019/20 administration budget for your review. As you are aware, this budget captures the cost associated with general administration of the manager's office to include the village manager, assistant village manager, the finance department function, and cable studio function. For this fiscal year, structural changes were made to this budget to include moving the assistant village manager salary entirely into the manager's office. Previously, this position and its salary was split between the community development budget and the manager's office budget. Also, the human resources function was moved from the finance section to the manager's office. Converting professional financial services from an in-house salary and benefits to a contractual services also occurred. As the board is aware, Lauterbach and Amon LLP are performing these services. The total administrative budget went up by $71,484. However, it again should be noted during fiscal year 18-19, 50% of the assistant village manager's salary and benefits were previously allocated to the community development and amounted to $80,369. The proposed fiscal year 2019-20 budget for the administration is $2,773,114, which is a 2.65% increase from the previous fiscal year. I'm available to answer any questions.
And if I'm correct in my remembrances, and please tell me if I am or I'm not, but our health insurance was, again, quite stable to reduced.
Our health insurance, the cost of our health insurance was actually reduced by about $300,000 this
Right.
year. Also reducing the cost to our employees as well.
Yep. So we are trying to stay ahead of that marketplace, and I think staff and whoever contributed to that has done a nice job.
Yeah, that was Kristen.
Yeah.
Kristen's the one who spearheaded that, drove that through, and really worked her butt off for about a month and a half.
Yes,
to make
as I
that happen.
recall, because that's one of the problems we have with the health insurance is that we're given about 15 minutes to just go yay or nay because of
Correct.
the requirement that they give us their final numbers in the last hour before we can.
Yeah, literally, I think there's a 2-week period of time
Yeah.
before the expiration of the
Yeah, and
the
that's
contract.
always the case. That's
Yeah.
the nature of the beast. That's nothing unusual. It's just a shame, but, and yeah, she did a great job.
She worked
And
very, very hard to make that happen and got it all done and got all the employees enrolled, so there was no lapse in coverage.
And as I believe, it's a quality program that no one's jumping ship because of that. In fact, comments I'm hearing is that.
It's a far better program.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other comments or questions about the administrative budget?
So including the fact that the assistant village manager's salary is fully under this budget and not under development, seems like it's all a wash in terms of our expenses by outsourcing the finance
No, you also
department, or?
you also picked up HR.
Also
HR was
picked
in
up
finance
HR was under a
last year.
different heading.
It's
So
now-
we consolidated a lot of different functions under the one function.
And the.
The HR is in here?
Yeah, the
Okay.
jump of contractual services is the finance, so that's, yeah.
Right, because we're spending 400 and something thousand more for contractual
Yeah.
services, but, so that's,
It's all finance.
it's finance, but also we're adding the HR here,
Saves, right.
as well as the assistant.
Yeah, plus there was also, in the current year's budget, there was also a food and beverage clerk that was anticipated to be hired, which wasn't hired, which is now being handled by Lauterbach and Amon under the term of finance.
Which is why there's basically a $300,000 deduct in
Right.
salaries and then corresponding benefits.
Right.
I'm just trying to understand how much do we really save by outsourcing then?
You know, I don't have a calculator in front of me, but I believe it's somewhere in the neighborhood of $100,000
Okay.
when you look at all the personnel.
All right, very good.
Any other comments or questions on this? So the final number is $2,773,114.
Yes, sir.
There a motion to approve that?
Second.
How many skunks did we deal with?
I'm not 100% sure, but I'm not aware of any. That's not to say that there haven't been some.
So we got 5,000 bucks for that.
And
reimbursement.
we partner up with the Park District, and they pay 50%. It's basically a placeholder.
Right.
Yeah, that's true. This really cold winter is probably going to help the human population much more than it's going to help the skunks.
And I guess this is as good a time as any, and hopefully Mick and/or Rick watch this far into the YouTube, but Vernon Township now has a skunk program. We have a skunk program that we're responsible for managing, but Park District supports it. Those folks that live north of Route 60, though, you're dependent upon our program that we manage in conjunction with the Park District. But I think your best bet now is to go to, if you're in Vernon Township, in other words, live in town south of Route 60, go to Vernon Township with your request for a skunk trapper and reimbursement. And if you live north of 60, come to us. But do your homework if you're going to acquire a trapper. And it has to be, I know with the Vernon Township, they're requiring a specific trapper where we have a list of trappers that will work with us, or that will work with our residents, and the resident is responsible, though, for collecting the paperwork and coming to us. So, Nick, Rick, write a nice article about skunks.
Okay. So we have a motion, a second. Any other comments or questions? Okay, hearing none, roll call, please.
President Byrne? Trustee Brown?
Aye.
Trustee Schultz?
Aye.
Trustee Markwart?
Aye.
Trustee Cook?
Aye.
Trustee Oppenheim?
Aye.
Trustee Takaoka?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item, the general purpose budget.
The general purpose budget is dedicated to debt service, contingencies, which we kind of mentioned a little bit before, fringe benefits, and the transfers that we're required to make to our TIF districts. Prior to the amount that we're going to change, the general purpose budget was $1,397,291, as compared to the FY 18-19 budget of $1,743,260, which would have been a decrease of 19.85%. The reason for that decrease is due to what we passed at the board meeting today about calling the bonds in, which will help,
So that's
Next.
represented by the 685,056 number.
right, and that, coming down from the 1.1 million.
Right.
So that was the largest contributor there. As you see on the bottom item, transfers to Mellody Farm TIF is going from the 5,000 to 44,000 because the revenues will start coming in, and then the village needs to transfer over to the TIF fund, the appropriate amount. What we need to do here, though, is, as we discussed previously, under the contingency area, we would change our 1920 proposed budget amount from $407,535 to $507,535. So our total expenditures that we are proposing tonight would be $1,497,291.
Which, if my math is right, is a change of, instead of 19.85% down, it's down 14% roughly. So it's still down quite a bit.
I'll trust your math numbers. Mine are sleeping right now.
I actually taught math yesterday for a day, so,
Oh, my God.
yeah, it's bad.
Is the Mellody Farm revenue on course? I guess I'll look to you, Larry. I know you
Well,
weren't.
we've got that coming up. That's,
I have hints that it is, in that we're not drawing down as much capitalized interest as was in the bond issue. sporadically, we've pursued trying to find out if there was a TIF revenue estimate. And of course, I'm sorry, I'll just bemoan my life one more time, but one of the issues we've had is filling out the TIF report and so forth. Nobody from the manager's office or finance were around when that was done. But I am interested in finding, as I say, every once in a while when we have time, we search for someone, hopefully someone created a long-term TIF revenue estimate. We have not found it yet, but that would be very good to know. But the indication I have that we're not spending capitalized interest at the rate the bond proceeds provide for it indicates that we're running ahead of schedule.
I can't remember the consulting firm.
It was Kane McKenna.
Right, but they have to have that, because that had to be part of their
You know, we
presentation.
got their finalized report, and it did not, we had to call them and got their finalized report, and it did not have it. But we're gonna, as I say, this is on our laundry list, so I know it's important, but I haven't nailed it down. But
Okay, so is there a motion to approve $1,497,291?
So made.
Second?
Motion second. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
President Byrne? Trustee Schultz?
Aye.
Trustee Markwart?
Aye.
Trustee Cook?
Aye.
Trustee Oppenheim?
Aye.
Trustee Takaoka?
Aye.
Trustee Brown?
Aye.
Motion carries. Vernon Hills Town Center TIF District?
The Verdon Hills Town Center Tax Increment Fund is, we're proposing a $1,438,920 budget for FY 1920. This is a 9.6% increase over the FY 2018-19 approved budget. The increase for the upcoming fiscal years due to the fact that our required debt service has been climbing each year and will continue until the FY 2021 budget, at which time it will stabilize. So we're still not quite there. And we're also projecting that the fund will generate a $256,080 surplus in the FY 1920 budget. Do you have any questions?
Is that on line with our long-term projection?
yes, that we are doing better than our long-term.
Excellent, excellent. And we have no outstanding opportunities to spend more money there, right? Everything has been built out?
It's being finished.
Yes,
It's being finished right now, so.
yeah.
Okay, so is there a motion to approve $1,438,920?
So made.
Second it.
Motion is second. Comments or questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
President Byrne? Trustee Markwart?
Aye.
Trustee Cook?
Aye.
Trustee Oppenheim?
Aye.
Trustee Takaoka?
Aye.
Trustee Brown?
Aye.
Trustee Schultz?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Last item on our regular agenda budget before we get to the golf course one, the Mellody Farm TIF District.
The Mellody Farms Tax Increment Fund, TIF, our recommended amount for FY 19-2020 budget is $649,108, which is up 0.15%. This represents a 0.15% increase. The fund is budgeted to run a deficit in FY '20, but this is being funded by the proceeds of the 2017 general obligation bonds, which Larry had mentioned before, the capitalized interest to cover until we start generating revenues for the TIF. If there's any questions?
Have we made all the payouts that were required as part of the development agreement?
Not yet. I think there's still the outlots.
Yeah, there's still 2 outlot payments that are required, $1 million per. One relates to Lazy Dog, which they're entitled to request that, and the other one relates to City Works. Village attorney could give you a little more detail on what's going on with that.
City work.
So they've not completed core and shell yet on the second outlet. In addition, they have, we're in the process of working through with them a request that came in, I believe it was March 6th, in which they requested that they be certified as having completed their retail private obligation, which is basically to finish the off-site improvements, the on-site improvements, and core and shell on all of their private retail buildings, which is everything but the outlets. They've not yet completed all of the off-site improvements. We're in the process of working through that. Mark is going to be meeting, the village manager will be meeting with them in the next week or two to go over those issues. That ties in then to the guardrail that needs to be removed, and then getting the necessary, that will then put IDOT in a position where they would be willing to go ahead and review the intersection realignment improvements. So, in short, to answer your question shortly, we have paid everything that we're legally obligated to pay so far, but we do have those other $2 million payments in the offing with respect to the outlots, and the significance of the certification of the private retail is that it would then remove the $25 million guarantee.
The Good Work, that's the Musk restaurant, am I correct, or?
Next door American Eatery?
Which one?
That's next door American Eatery.
Yeah,
That's-
okay, that's the property we're talking about?
No, that's one of the, it's part of the overall development. It's not considered an outlot.
Right.
It's in the
Okay.
G2 building. We're talking about Lazy Dog.
Yeah,
And then if you go one building south of that, along Milwaukee Avenue, it's got like a light colored brick.
yes.
That's going to be City Works. They've been working on that all.
Oh,
winter
that,
long.
okay,
And it
that's,
still has wood on the north side windows?
that's not the Musk one, I thought that was the Musk
No.
facility, okay.
That's City Works, and then the other outlots are back around by Shake Shack, and
Yeah, that was my question, so Shake Shack isn't considered an outlot?
it is an outlot, but the wording in the RDA is that those two $1 million payments were tied to the first two outlots to be built.
Okay. Okay. Motion to approve 649-108.
Oh, wait. I'll second it.
Motion a second. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
President Byrne? Trustee Cook?
Aye.
Trustee Oppenheim?
Aye.
Trustee Takaoka?
Aye.
Trustee Brown? Aye. Trustee Schultz?
Aye.
Trustee Markwart?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Does the finance department want the books back at this juncture?
Sure. We will give you a budget.
Okay, then next item, and I know you've been waiting all night. This is the golf course budget.
Yes, thank you. Again, appreciate the time. I'm flying solo tonight. As many of you know, we're transitioning general managers, and our new general manager started yesterday. Jason Poblocki is, our new leadership on site, and so that's why you'll see me solo. For those of you who don't know, my name is Dean Litton. I'm I'm a vice president of operations with the company. I oversee 8 properties in Chicago for Kemper Sports, and I've been with Kemper for 17 years. So, and I can tell you just before we get started that we value this relationship very much. For those that don't know, this is our longest standing relationship with any client in our company, over 40 years. So of the 100+ golf courses that we operate nationwide, this one holds a special place to us, and we truly value the relationship. So thank you. I wanted to start with some good news. It's not on the agenda. There is a local publication called Chicago Golf Report. Obviously being located in Chicago, we've got some great relationships with the media. This just came out on the 17th. This is the top 10 elevated tee shots in the Chicagoland area, and I'm happy to report that Vernon Hills is number 3 on that list. Number 7 for the golf course is number 3 on that list, beating out the likes of some holes from the Glen Club, Harborside International, Cog Hill. So a nice list that we will promote for sure, that people can come out and play the golf course and experience that hole. So
The Bernie Loeb would be very happy that the hill he built is.
Yeah, exactly. So, but it's a good thing. It's a good thing to kind of build a little bit of a marketing buzz around and to kind of start the season with. So I thought I'd throw this in this year just so you guys understand the support that we receive, from the home office at the property level. Obviously, you see myself up there and the person that I work for, Frank Merkel, but we also do a lot with regional sales and marketing. Ed Jackman supports. Dave Groley comes over from Royal Melbourne and does a lot from a course and ground standpoint. Our director of accounting, Corley Price, I know Ann will work with you quite a bit, and others, and then Heather, our vice president of human resources. So, we receive a tremendous amount of support, not only for Vernon Hills, but for all of our golf courses locally and nationally, and these are the primary people that help us out with Vernon Hills. To talk a little bit about the 2018 golf season, not a lot of good news here, so I'm going to get through this quick. So weather played a vital role, not just in the golf industry locally, but nationally. This is a busy slide, but what you need to know is nationally, down 4.8% throughout the year. Chicago rounds were down 6.1% year over year. So a tremendous amount of weather conditions. This is a rounds participation nationally. And as you can see, this is kind of a buildup from 1990. This was one of the lowest participation years with the industry belief that weather was the sole deficit driver in 2018. And we've seen that nationally. This next slide is interesting that this is actual golf playable hours. So they take into account weather and actual playable hours nationwide. And down 5.2% is the biggest anomaly, a record-setting negative year on a 10-year average. So as you'll see from a financial standpoint, rounds and revenues are significantly impacted by that with a difficult spring, a difficult fall, and then flooding in between in July. So all contributing factors, unfortunately, to a downturn, not only for what we see here, but what we see regionally and nationally. So doing a little comparison for FY 18-19 versus prior year, again, rounds, green fees, cart fees, revenue decrease negatively affected by poor spring, fall weather, and some flooding mid-season. And that revenue loss is kind of consistent with the national trends that we see. The good news is that it's believed in the industry that any normalized weather pattern for 1920 fiscal is going to result in a pretty significant uptick. When you see that kind of anomaly, a downturn in what happens due to weather, any normalized weather is going to see an upturn that next year. Looking at just overall operating income, the good news is that despite that weather and despite the reductions that we saw in revenue, we were able to have some success in other departments through food and beverage revenue success, and then controlling our expenses, which is important when you're having a downturn from a revenue standpoint. So we're actually able to make an improvement in our operating income over prior year, despite what was a pretty drastic weather event throughout the 2018 season. So we're projecting actually a $27,000 increase over prior year operations to the bottom line. So moving on to how we perform versus budget, obviously, I don't want to go over and over the same thing, but weather was a factor. We fell short of our golf revenue totals by 24%, and this is something that we're seeing. Again, I operate 8 courses in this area, and I'm seeing the same thing across the board due to record-setting, flooding, temperatures, rainfall, et cetera. So obviously those are things that we want to improve on moving forward with a normalized weather year, among some other things that we'll do from a marketing standpoint. And again, we were budgeted to lose 19, and as you see, we're losing 52, so it's a $33,000 loss. The good news is food and beverage revenue is projected to surpass the budget by 7%, and G&A revenue is projected to surpass budget as well. So despite, again, some negative downturns from a revenue golf standpoint, we're able to make it up in some other areas by hosting some additional events and be able to control our expenses as well. So moving into the budget for 19 to 20 moving forward, we're budgeting total revenue of $402,000 and expenses of $422,000. The increase is going to come 11% increase in green fee revenue and 15% increase in cart revenue. Again, a lot of that is going to come from what we believe will be a normalized weather year. 4% increase in F&B revenue. We continue to promote and reach out to the community to let those know that they can have events at the clubhouse at Vernon Hills, whether it's retirement or birthday party or graduation or whatever the case may be. We want to be an
American
option.
Legion bingo.
Bingo, exactly. We want to be an option for those in the community to host their event at Vernon Hills, and every little bit helps from a food and beverage standpoint.
I'd like to hold you up just for a second on
Sure.
your expenses. Do we have cart expenses, or did we pay that off? Or there was an investment we made in new carts 2 years ago. And
I
how
believe
was-
there's one more year on it,
There's
if
one
I'm not
more year?
mistaken. Yeah,
Is that,
I can confirm, but
Okay.
I believe that's the case.
yeah,
So I'll confirm.
okay.
But along those lines, we're budgeting for expenses to be flat. Again, I think that's, they've been pretty consistent over the past 2 or 3 years, and there's a lot of controllable expenses for us from a payroll standpoint. Look, if we need to ramp up a little bit because of the increased golf and rounds traffic, we'll do that. That's a good problem to have. But for the time being, we want to be able to control our expenses and drive that top line instead of managing the expenses. Here's a little snapshot of department by department revenues that you can take a look at. But some of the strategies from an operations standpoint, we did have some management turnover by no fault of anybody. We had some gentlemen move on to opportunities to further their career, which is great. But we want to manage efficiently and drive revenue, and work hand in hand with the village staff and the trustees. And we want leadership on site that promotes all aspects of Vernon Hill Golf Course and the community and the region that we're in. And I believe Jason brings that to the table, and I look forward to more of you. I know some of you have met Jason, and more of you getting down to meet him and get to know him a little bit better.
What was his last name again?
Poblocki.
Poblocki.
And then increase green fee revenue. Look, this is something that we always try and do at all of our golf courses, but we want to identify those non-peak times and always evaluate our utilization from a tee sheet and understand where we can work to drive revenue through leagues, events, pricing, dynamic pricing, and those types of things. Again, a dedicated focus on increased leagues and outings. This is something I think we can capitalize a little bit more on by the outreach in the community to some of the corporate organizations here locally, fraternal organizations, to start to regenerate leagues. As you'll see below, the 9-hole round is making a comeback, so to speak. Time has become kind of the enemy of the golf industry. 4 hours, 5 hours to play a round of golf. Millennials and families, kids are playing soccer, kids are playing sports. They don't have that time anymore. Even 18-hole courses are creating 12-hole loops or 9-hole loops or 6-hole loops. So this is a trend that I think is very positive from our standpoint, and we want to capitalize on that and begin to promote that 9-hole round that's becoming, quite frankly, in some cases more popular than the 18-hole rounds. And from a marketing standpoint, email outreach, social media outreach are things that have been successful for us in the past that we want to do moving forward, and capture as much data as we can on our customers so we can continually communicate. Pro shop and food and beverage, these things don't change too much on a year-to-year basis, but, there's some things that we've had some success with, and creating theme promotions and giveaways, raffle drawings, and those types of things. We did that last season with some success. Create food and beverage options that kind of cater to the guests and provide more opportunities. We're going to explore, taco nights and fish fries and those types of things moving forward to where we're a little bit more engaged with specials with the surrounding community, whether it's people walking from the neighborhoods or coming up and understanding that there can be a special on those nights. And those are things that we'd like to try and make stick moving forward as revenue opportunities. And again, we want to be a clubhouse that's available for banquets and events and opportunity for the community to be a part of. So, that's our presentation on the budget, and happy to take any questions regarding the operation.
Questions from the board? This chair has always looked at that as a village amenity. There was a question I had. I think I proposed it to the prior village manager, but was looking for the information concerning the deed that covets, or the plat that covers the golf course. As my understanding, it's encumbered with a, in perpetuity, an open space requirement, above and beyond the fact that it's got to be within, if not a 100-year floodplain, probably a 500-year floodplain, which would make it unbuildable for any other purpose. But I'd like to just confirm what the deed or the plat actually has associated with it, just for everybody's knowledge.
Sure, we'll look that up.
The other question I get the most, and you didn't address it here, the rates, it sounds like you're planning on maintaining the rates but increasing the amount of rounds?
Yeah, I think maintaining rates is, but again, we like to look at utilization on the tee sheet. If there's the ability to, the overutilized areas of the tee sheet where we can increase rate a little bit, we'll do so, but then identify those soft spots on the
That
tee
would be
sheet
going forward, okay.
through dynamically pricing and maybe offering a few deals at that time to drive rates and rounds at those times.
If you're anticipating any rate increases, speak now or forever hold your peace for 365 days, because you're going to get people writing checks quite soon for.
Yeah, no, we're going to hold flat with last year. Based on the events that happened from a weather standpoint, it's kind of a bad dynamic to go increasing the rates at this time. I think we'll see that uptick just from what I hope is a normalized weather pattern in 1920.
I wouldn't expect you would know, but I'm just a point of curiosity, and maybe you could find out for me. Whenever we use, and I forgot the name of the service that is providing the tee sheet, but also then.
Easy Links.
Yeah, Easy Links.
Easy Links, yeah. Point of sale.
Do we get an email address for everybody that uses that, so we can direct market to that particular?
Yeah. So that's when they're at the counter, we want to ask for that tee time. When they make a tee time over the phone, I'm sorry, for that email, same thing over the phone. What I really like to promote is people making tee times online, because they have to give an email address at that point.
Right.
But I do know that our database continues to grow on a yearly basis, so we're doing. Again, it's a challenge in the golf industry. You got one person making a tee time. There's 3 other people. That's the challenge in the industry, to just capture those emails.
Right.
And that's what we're trying to do, to do a better job.
Of course, the other is also get yourself the big F, the big Facebook, big F logo, and get everybody to like you.
Yeah, and I won't go off too much of a tangent here, but that dynamic of social media advertising has really taken off, and we've seen success. We can geo-fence an area and target a specific along so many different categories that you can choose from. And we're going to be doing more of that this year, because we've seen success around the country in doing that.
And I know that Dave has been working with the CN to improve the visuals along the.
We just talked about that the other day.
Yeah.
Yep.
To get rid of all the dead ash trees that are on the CN property.
Yep.
We're still handling the treatment under our maintenance budget of the trees we're trying to salvage on the golf course.
Yes, sir.
Just like we would in any other arbor space that we have in town.
Yes, sir.
Do you have any projection on opening? I know it's a crystal ball with the weather, but I do know that
We're opening
the
Thursday.
ground man has been out there working a lot.
Thursday.
This Thursday?
Yep.
Yeah,
Thursday we open, and
tomorrow or Thursday.
Jason was down there all day, and the phone was ringing off the hook. So as soon as we just need a little dry out for a couple of days, we'll be ready to go Thursday.
Any other comments or questions regarding this budget?
Make sure Jason signs up for Bassett training if he's not already.
I think he already did it online last
God
night.
bless.
Do we
So-
need a motion to approve this budget then okay, is there a motion to approve the budget as presented by Kemper?
So made.
Seconded.
Motion and second, any other comments or questions? Hearing none, a roll call, please.
President Byrne. Trustee Oppenheim.
Aye.
Trustee Takaoka.
Aye.
Trustee Brown.
Aye.
Trustee Schultz.
Aye.
Trustee Markwart.
Aye.
Trustee Cook.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you, and I'll send that article to, so we can get forward to the board.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, since we already discussed item L, that means we have nothing left on the agenda, correct? And I will entertain a motion to adjourn the committee of the whole.
So made.
Second that?
Motion second. Is that, can we do that voice vote?
Yes.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. We are adjourned. Thank you.